Music Business, What Is This? Is a podcast that focuses on the ever-changing music industry and presents issues and concerns that the average and above average musician has or will encounter.
Hey everybody, I'm Jeremiah Hunt.
And I'm Richard Johnson.
And this is Music Business.
What is this?
Today we're going to be talking about, is social media important?
Oh, this is an excellent topic because we all use social media. Whether you recognize it or not, it's there, right?
That's right.
You use it. And social media it's interesting because it's evolving every day. A lot of times on the news, I'll hear about this big company bought this other big company, and the price for that was something outrageous, $3 billion.
Right.
And then 5 or 8 years later, you'll hear that that company is making $5 or $8 billion a day
Right.
off that. So it's actually a great investment, which is showing you the strength and the power of social media. So let's get right into it. When you hear the term social media, what do you think?
Just self-promotion.
Self-promotion?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's what a lot of people take it as today. And I'm in total agreement with that. The game has changed a lot over the past 20, 30 years. Certain people's jobs, I don't want to say aren't needed, but it's exposed as to what is needed. So a lot of it can be done yourself.
Yeah.
Social media has changed the game. Before, if you needed a publicist to get the word out about your music, they had all the connections. And yes, publicists are still used and they're needed. But at the same time, if you have a big enough following, depending on your bank account and your funds, you may be able to do a lot of that press yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So when you use social media, well, first let's just talk about what forms of social media do you use?
I would say the main thing that I use daily would be Instagram.
Instagram, yeah. Everybody's using the gram.
Yep.
All right.
The gram.
The gram, it's killing the game right now.
It's powerful.
Yeah, and the question is, how long will the gram be this powerful? And there's other forms, of course. There's the formerly known Twitter as X.
Right.
You have that. And then you have TikTok?
That's becoming big.
Yeah, I mean, TikTok is killing the game too.
Yeah.
Anything else? Facebook. Now, here's the thing. Facebook, yes, they own Instagram. It's a big form of social media. I've found that Facebook now is used by my generation, which is old. I'm gonna just say it. I'm just gonna say it. It's old, and even for me, I don't use it the same way as I used it 15 years ago.
Me too. Yeah.
I gotta be honest. I mean, I have it, but I couldn't even honestly tell you the last time I really focused on it.
Right.
I think I've seen it, but now since it's connected to Instagram, it's just like, okay, let me just throw it up here on the gram, and then it's connected.
Same here. Yeah, because most of the things that you post on Instagram, it automatically connects to your Facebook, and then those notifications on your Facebook are usually about what happens on your Instagram.
Right. So they're partners in crime, whether you know it or not. Okay, so social media. How many, I don't want to say hours, but how much time a day do you use social media? Do you know? Can you look?
Can I look on my social media?
Yeah, it keeps track of it. Do you know how to look?
Oh, no, I don't.
Yeah. In your settings, if you have an iPhone, there's a option to see what your daily time is for that. So, yeah.
I don't know. It's probably too much right now.
Yeah.
So I don't want to.
I actually looked at mine before this podcast, and it was 3 hours and 22 minutes. And I don't want to say I was surprised, but I was surprised because all those little time slots that you use it add up. And I think that's what a lot of people don't realize. When you see someone else using it, you automatically think, oh, okay, are they doing business or are they doing social media? And sometimes it's the same depending on what your job is.
Right.
So it's easy to kind of say, oh, so-and-so uses it a lot. But 30 seconds here, a minute there, 2 minutes there, over the course of a day, that adds up.
Yeah.
So I was interested. So in doing my research for this podcast, I said, well, let me look and see what mine is. And it was 3 hours, 22 minutes. I said, okay, how much of that is me actually doing work? Because I do use that to gauge certain things. And how much is it just me on there scrolling saying, oh, let me see what my homie's doing and checking them out.
Right.
And it goes both ways. I think it's important to have an idea of what is what. Because you could go down that hole and get lost very easily.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing about Instagram that makes it so famous, is because it's so addictive.
Yeah, the algorithms that they use is like, oh, let me look up my favorite type of cookies. Like, I love cookies.
Right.
Oh, okay, there's my favorite type. But then all of a sudden now all these feeds start coming about cookies that are similar. Recipes. And I'm like, I don't even cook, but let me look and see what the ingredients are in this cookie. So I'm looking now, I know what the ingredients are. And then next thing you know, oh, there's a grocery store down the street where I can buy these ingredients for the cookie.
Right.
Oh, awesome. And then I go to the grocery store and then I go in there and I see a whole aisle full of more cookies. Right. So now this one little 30-second thing is turned into a 2-hour, journey. Right. So it can be dangerous. It in a good way and a bad way, depending upon how you use it and what you're using it for. In your daily life, do you think Instagram or some form of the gram is the immediate future?
I would say it's the immediate present. I wouldn't say future. Yeah, I think it's just like everything is just happening now. And I don't know. It's hard to say what's the future.
Okay, because I asked that question because you have a website.
Yes.
I have a website. 20 years ago, someone would say, yeah, that's social media. Today, they wouldn't say that's social media. They would say that's a website. It's sitting there. People can access it. But is it socially involved in someone's conversation? You have to send someone there really to find it. And I'm not saying it's not valid.
Right.
Hence, we both have it.
Right.
Right. But the question is, what was social media then is definitely not what social media is now.
True.
So my question about the immediate future, because technology is changing things so fast, it's like, okay, years ago I would have been like, website, cool, that's all you needed. People wanted me for a gig, they go to a website.
Right.
Now I send people to my social media and there is posted my website.
Right.
On that.
Yeah.
And if they ask for that, cool. Most businesses will want to see that because that's where all your information is stored, your bio, calendar, photos, blah, blah, blah. You can only do so much with a format like Instagram or Twitter, or TikTok. You can do a whole lot to get people attracted to you.
Right.
But then the question is, okay, if this company wants to hire you, how much are they really going to pull off a social media platform? Right. So if you only have that, you have to really figure out who your market is and then how you're going to monopolize that. And that changes according to what you're doing. I mean, we're talking about the music business, but if you're just trying to be a star doing a dance or doing a production, that's great. But I think in the back of people's mind, ultimately, they want to make some money or make a living out of this thing. And then that's where the other things that are associated with that become needed.
Right.
Right. So the question of, is social media important? It depends on your world and what you're doing. Do you know musicians who don't have any social media?
Yeah, I do know some.
Yeah. And how are things functioning for them from your standpoint?
They seem to do pretty well. They seem to have more of a sane lifestyle.
Yeah,
because they're not always glued to their phone. They manage their time in a way that's just they don't have to look at their phone every hour or so like that to see what someone else is doing. But to a certain degree, they aren't I guess they aren't promoted as much. They don't promote themselves as much. So their options are limited, when it comes to getting gigs, when it comes to musicians. The good thing about Instagram is that you can post, videos and pictures and stuff like that. So someone who, let's say I'm a bass player, and if I post, 100 videos playing like different styles, it's easier for me to get a gig, because someone can just look at, I can have a friend send someone my video and say, oh, he plays this style. He can play funk too. He can play jazz. He can play this. And then at the same time, I'm building my fan base on social media as well. Okay. So when you're building your fan base, it's easier for you to sell tickets if you were to have a show or something.
So do you see someone without social media being at a disadvantage?
I do see that. Yeah.
And that's because
it's just the way the world is now. It's just like,
it's just because, like you said, there are several musicians who don't have it.
Yeah.
I know some that are pretty in my age category that are doing very well. And because they're excellent musicians, word of mouth, and that's their form of communicating, and it's working. So do you think if they had social media, they would work more?
I think it would sort of advance their careers in a way that they would get noticed more.
Okay.
Recognized more for what they do. Yeah.
So do you think the question of being recognized more gives you more, I don't want to say exposure, but more income? And the reason I ask this is because there are plenty of people who have a gazillion followers and no income. They're extremely popular on Instagram, TikTok, and all these other forums, but they're not monetizing it.
Right.
And then you have other people who aren't on there who are monetizing every opportunity because of who they play with. And that connection of people is smaller but more powerful. So I asked the question, for you, do you think the exposure is, I don't want to say always good, but is a direct lead to a monetary benefit?
Yeah, I guess it just depends on where your mindset is. If you're understand that social media is a place where you can, monetize your product and at the same time become visible, to the world, then, you should take advantage of that.
So I think it sounds like a person may have to choose where they want to put their efforts.
Right.
If you put your efforts in social media, you'll probably get more back than not doing it. Or right? Yeah. You got to do something. But then there's still the philosophy of not using it, and I'm going to play my tail off. And sure, if someone else wants to record me and put it up, and maybe even show their own tune with them playing on it.
Right.
But I'm playing my tail off, and someone says, "Who is that?"
Yeah. You get famous on accident.
Yeah. I mean, because that's a reality.
It is.
Someone's posting something of them, but then they see somebody else in the background. There's all these funny comedic memes and things about situations, and it's usually not the person who's actually trying to be the focus. Right. It's usually what's happening in the background, something else that happens. So I think it still comes down to, can you play?
Right.
We are in this era of where, let me be seen, let me show off what I can do. But if the priority is not what you're bringing to the table musically, depending on who you want to play with and the caliber of those people, you may not get it.
Right.
Because the focus is kind of misleading.
Right. And that's the thing about social media with all the filters. And
yeah, you can spend all your time dealing with that.
Yeah, and spend all your time dealing with the editing.
Yeah, now your 3 hours of practice is cut down to an hour.
Right.
Now with social media, do you back up your content?
I don't.
Okay.
What is that? What are you?
Well, if you have your photos or videos on your phone, right? You lose the phone, right? Is all your information connected to a cloud?
Right.
I mean, it's reality. It could fall and break. If that form of media is important, you don't want to lose all your information.
Right,
exactly. It's like your job.
Well, I do back up. Yeah, I do back up all my content on my computer. So whatever I take on my phone, I generally hook it up to my computer and I'll transfer it to my computer after or before I put it on whatever platform, Facebook or Instagram like that. But at Instagram, I'm glad you brought that up because Instagram has an archive section to where if you post, actually whatever you've posted since 2017, they have in that archive section. So you can go back to.
So they're holding
all of your photos and videos since 2017. That's what I believe.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's good but scary.
Yeah.
You don't know who's sitting in the office somewhere in Oregon. Let me see what Jeremiah Hunt was doing on March 5th on 2017. Oh, there's my cousin in the background. And AI can find all of that like that.
Yes.
So that's very interesting. Do you think you could make it a week without your phone in today's time?
Yes, I could personally. Yes.
Okay. And why do you say that?
Learning to, this is a whole thing that I've been doing, learning to train my mind with like meditation and yoga and stuff, and just putting my intention and putting my attention on whatever needs to be done. And, social media really, or my phone isn't really a part of that. Unless I need to communicate with a family member or a friend, something like that.
So you're taking the term disconnect to the max, like completely disconnect.
Yeah.
And is that easy for you or is it natural? Because a lot of people can't do that now.
Yeah, I think it's just natural for me. It's easy for me to I find that it's natural for me to disconnect just in general. Even in relationships that I form with friends and family, like, sometimes I'll go 3 days without talking to someone, and they'll look at me funny style after the 3 days, and it's like, what did I do? Right. Like, man, we haven't talked for 3 days. Doesn't that mean something? And I'm like, oh, well, that's kind of normal for me, So yeah, it just kind of depends.
Okay. Just asking because I get asked every now and then, do you disconnect? And when people say that, I have to read into like, what are they asking? Disconnect from social media, people, life. What does that mean? I'm finding that word disconnect now is really popular with social media because everybody's on social media in general, everybody. And the disconnect is difficult for a lot of people to do because they've become so attached to this apparatus, this screen, this thing that, there's studies now coming out with children and how much of a problem it is to not have that contact with this thing. So, that's why I asked about that for you. I was on a gig last night and I had 3 people come up to me and say, do you have a business card? Right?
Interesting.
I had 3 people on this gig and all 3 of them had gigs for me. And I didn't have a business card. And I always had business cards. And it got me thinking about how many people have business cards today. And what's the difference between now and 10 years, 15, 20 years? Because I remember when I was younger, you had to have a business card.
Yeah.
What is your thought process on the business card?
I don't think you need them anymore. I mean, in your case last night, you definitely needed it.
I needed it.
How was the situation?
Fortunately, I was able to tell people, I don't have it, but if you give me your number, I'll call you and text you, and you'll have my information immediately. And they're like, okay, great. right? So I was able to troubleshoot that pretty quickly.
Yeah.
But that just proved to me there are people still asking for business cards. And I notice if you go to a doctor's office, a company, any kind of sitting room, if you look right on the stand in the front,
right,
there's still business cards. You know, so I think it's something to think about in perspective to what you're doing in music business, right? The way we communicate, is it necessary? No, we have a different form of relating with each other via social media, or here's my number, you get it immediately. But at a certain level, there are people still making big decisions that have a business card.
That's true.
And it's just something to think about, because you don't want someone to ask you and you don't have it. And I'm not saying you need to get it, but at least you have to have a response to give them, because you don't want it to look like you're not prepared.
Right.
So that's the only reason I bring that up, just because it just happened to me. You know, and I have years of business cards. I keep one from every time I had one, just so I can look back 20 years and say, hey, this was my business card when I was 17, and laugh. The reality of it is, you know, I may have some, I may not, but you need some type of response so you can still work.
Yeah.
Right. So my concern here is just be prepared for that.
Yeah.
Because the demographic of people I was playing for last evening, all of them asked.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else social media on your mind?
I don't think so.
Cool. Well, once again, it's been a pleasure. My name is Richard Johnson.
I'm Jeremiah Hunt.
This is Music Business.
What is this?
Thank you for joining us, and we will see you later. This program is partially supported by a grant from the Illinois Arts Council Agency.